Welcome to On the Mark with Arpit. This is pretty much our first real episode talking about something specific, and that something specific that we're going to talk about is the match between Manchester United and Liverpool FA Cup quarterfinal at Old Trafford, which happened last night. And I'm still buzzing from it, and I'm pretty sure Mark is still recovering from it. Mark, let's just start things off. Craziest match you watched, probably?
Well, we say about the FA Cup, don't we? It has all of these upsets and whatnot, and this game actually had everything, didn't it? If you were a supporter of one team, you were up at a certain time in the game. If you were a supporter of another team, you were down, and then it went upside down again. I think it's called Ulta, and yeah, it was an amazing game for lots of bad reasons as well. It wasn't all good reasons.
Yeah.
When someone wins 4-3, then there's obviously going to be mistakes in there. But it had everything. It had quality. It had mistakes. It had just excitement. It had the lot. And you could see the players at the end of the game, Arpit, they were drained, weren't they? They were all drained. And I know it was extra time, but it must have took an awful lot out of them.
It definitely did. Took a lot of out of us, but there's no comparison between, of course, what they experienced, because I was constantly on the phone with fellow United fans, and we have a group which has United fans and Liverpool fans in there together, and it's just better that no one knows what was typed out over the course of the 120 minutes. But what a match! One of the craziest, definitely, if not the craziest, one of the craziest matches that I've seen. Manchester United eventually coming through in this one. And Mark, the term is ulta pulta, so just say it, ulta pulta.
Ulta pulta.
Yeah, well done. So that basically means things are just going haywire, and that seemed to be the match. I'll just start things off saying, Mark, we were not planning. I was thinking of recording this yesterday before that match, so I thought we'd do a preview show. You, of course, being the party animal that you are, where were you, Mark?
I was at both of our friends' party in a place called Morjimingoa. Mr. Terence Phelan. It was his 57th birthday, and he invited me and my partner over. So we took advantage of his hospitality and had a great night.
Yeah. Now, obviously, when you told me, because you need the speakers, you need the headphones and everything. Sorry, the headphones and the mic. Obviously, we couldn't do it because you'd gone to Morjim, you weren't home. I'm sort of glad that we didn't do this yesterday, because had we done this yesterday, it would have been pretty much me having a very pessimistic view of what Manchester United would have done on the pitch. And I just watched Andy Mitten's review of the players, his ratings of the players, and he sounded the same. He said, I was prepared to come here for disappointment. And that was a lot of Manchester United fans just in the build-up. The form wasn't great, missing key players as well. And after that, to do what they have done, my first question to you is, do you feel like Liverpool didn't do enough in this one?
Yes, I do. But having said all of that, there were so many, troughs in the game, and then there were peaks in the game. And I thought Liverpool thought that they had it won. In terms of what we'll go over with the goals, to score 2, bam, bam, and go in at half time ahead, that wasn't the game. Manchester United were dominant against Liverpool early on in that game. Obviously went 1-0 up. And I'm thinking, and I'm saying to you, there's more goals in this. And you being the pessimist that you are, was saying, no, there won't be. But it was a strange game. And even, Manchester United getting back into it towards the end of the 90 minutes. And then obviously we're going to talk about the extra time, which was crazy because...
Yeah, let's start off from the beginning then, because that's what I want to know. I looked at the team sheets and I've got them written down over here. Van Bissaka obviously coming in is a big deal for us. We've been playing Lindelof out of position, McTominay and Menu in that two-man defense, sort of. I'm not a big fan of Scott McTominay playing there, because I believe he likes to wander off up front, so he doesn't give as much defensive cover as maybe a Casemiro. Garnacho, Fernandes, Rashford, 3 players who would start, and Højlund, of course, who would start. I'm looking at the Liverpool team: Robertson, Van Dijk, Gomez, Kwanzaa, who's just been way too good for his age and just being introduced into a team. Szoboszlai, Endo, McAllister, Salah, Nunez, Diaz. On paper, you think which coach is happier having more preferred players in the starting 11?
Well, I think obviously Klopp, he's getting obviously Salah coming back into it. I mean, take the back four out of Liverpool. the next 6 players, they're very, very good, and they've got quality. They've got goals in them. Defensively,
are you saying
okay.
Robertson, Van Dijk, and Gomez? Come on, Mark.
I'm not saying. I'm saying Gomez and Kwanzaa aren't the real deal for Liverpool. If they had good quality players in there, like a right back. Why I don't know why Conor Bradley never played. You know, he's a proper right back.
Came in later, yeah.
Came in later on. Obviously, he knows how these players are feeling, whether they're tired or. I mean, these youngsters. I mean, I seen Mainu yesterday. He really visibly tired towards the end of the 90 minutes. So you've got to obviously make changes and whatnot. But Liverpool's front 6 were better, I thought, in terms of individuality than the 6 of Manchester United. But when you seen how Manchester United started, they started like a house on fire at home. It was what everyone wanted, the supporters and the game needed, and they took the game to Liverpool. And Liverpool are a little bit stunned, you know. And obviously Keller had to make some very good, but Keller had to make some very good saves as well. But when they went 1-0 up through McTominay, that was value for money for Manchester United, because the first 10 minutes they absolutely dominated Liverpool. But what they never did was put their foot on the throat and stamped on it. They let Liverpool come back into the game, and obviously you're not expecting to score 2 in a minute. But that's what happened. And as we say in football, goals change games. And, you know, you can imagine Ten Hag's talk at half-time when they were 1-0 up would have been brilliant. But all of a sudden, what does he say to them when they go in when they're 2-1 down? So this is the beauty of football. But this game had everything like that. And it was good for the people who were supporting Liverpool and Manchester United. But it was also good for the people that weren't and were just spectators and watching it on the TV. It had absolutely everything. And I was talking to you through the first half of extra time, and I put my phone down and went to sleep and missed everything at the end.
You missed the insanity. I know. I messaged you, and funnily, you saw the message later on in the night. So obviously, you got up at some point, but you missed the insanity, and it was just that, because when Diallo scored that goal as well, I mean, that in itself is just insane, because he scores the goal, Old Trafford erupts. He goes and celebrates and takes his jersey off. Even I didn't remember he had a yellow card from before. I said, yeah, go on, take the yellow card. It's worth it. Go celebrate with your shirt off. And then, you know, they're showing the supporters around Old Trafford. And the next thing you see is he's walking down the tunnel and you're thinking, wait, is the game over? I genuinely thought the game was over. He was giving his jersey to someone and walking off. And I said, wow, we won this game. And then obviously we figured, no, it was a red card. But even when that happened, I wasn't really jumping around celebrating, because I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. It was just mayhem towards the end, especially with what was happening in terms of our positional play. So I'll come to that in a bit, because Erik ten Hag has received a lot of criticism over the past couple of seasons. In this match, when he makes his substitutions, there's a video doing the rounds, and I sent it to you as well, of Anthony coming back in extra time and doing stuff like, I don't understand what's going on. Why am I playing back there?
And he didn't want to either, did he?
Bruno,
he didn't want to go there.
He sent him to the left back position. Bruno, because was tired, injured, playing in a centre back position. Maguire sometimes on the right of the defense, going up front. Is that great game management by Erik ten Hag with what he had?
No, it's actually what's the word I'm looking for? Well, they had to do something different. Now, obviously, Fernandes was tired. Obviously, Maguire's come on as a sub, and if you want to get when you throw a big centre half up like that, it's desperation, isn't it? And so you're going to launch that ball into him and hope that it just drops either side and he can ruffle the feathers of the defenders. And it's desperation. That's what it was. It wasn't necessarily good tactics. He did what he had to do. You know, he put players in positions that, you know, he couldn't. I think he'd made all of his substitutions anyway.
Yeah, he had to get Van Bissaka off. So Van Bissaka wasn't playing. He should,
But you've got to give him the credit. Now, we would be having a totally different conversation today.
Had they lost.
And what's he doing putting Bruno Fernandes at the back? Why is he putting Anthony, who's come on at left back? So you've got to give him credit where credit's due. He took He's took the decision. He's made them changes. He's made them choices. And fortunately for him, it's come off, and now we're lauding him. And if any manager in the Premier League can take a little bit of the lauding, it should be him, because he's had an awful lot of shit thrown at him this season, both from the Manchester United supporters, but from everybody else around there. So all kudos to him. And yeah, he probably look at that and put it in his notebook and think, that's a game not to be referenced again. Just leave that where it is, you know.
Yeah. I don't think it should be touched again. But yeah, Erik ten Hag has had his criticism. We've not done a podcast before this about Manchester United or anything for that matter. So the listeners don't necessarily know. I have myself at times criticized decisions where players are playing. So I've been one of those Manchester United fans as well who's questioned him. I thought yesterday, with what he had at hand and the way he just put them and said, just do the job. And the fact that the players did the job, Mark, because often we've spoken about this, that it's not so much what the manager is doing or not doing, it's what the players should do and aren't doing on the pitch. So the players did do it yesterday.
But the fact that you're saying that is for me, the problem within football right now. These guys are earning astronomical amounts of money, and we're saying, well done for doing that job that we pay you so handsomely for. You know, that's the prerequisite. You're getting paid no matter whether it's 2 lakh, 2 crore, 3 crore a week. You have to do your job. And it's scary, really, for me to hear you say, and they did really well, didn't they? God loved them. They did really well. This is what they should be doing every single game. You know, and
imagine if we get the congratulations for doing what we do.
And do you know who gets the chop out of all of this? It's never the players. And
it's
you know, and having been a player, I'll let you into a little secret. We will use every excuse under the sun, right? We will say, oh, the train we travelled down to London on wasn't quick enough, or the hotel we stayed at wasn't good enough, or the plane, we had turbulence going down and I shit my pants, or whatever it was. They'll use everything, you know, other than looking at themselves. And I think that's what Manchester United need to do. The players individually have to really look at themselves and think, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough to make, even if you don't like your manager, I've played the game for clubs when I haven't liked the manager, but I've gone out to play for myself, my family, my teammates, the supporters. And also that, you know, intrinsically means the management as well. So, yeah, and it was just a great... I hope he's gone home and had a nice glass of wine or a cold beer and thought, wow, they're in the semi-final against Coventry. So they're going to be in the final. And wouldn't it be nice to have some silverware again as well?
Oh, it definitely would. And I'm definitely more confident about the semi-final than I was about the quarterfinal for Manchester United. You know, just a little point, and we might discuss it later on in another podcast about players not playing to their 100%. It's crazy for us fans to imagine it, because we've obviously not experienced that. I've never experienced that. You've been a player on a professional level. But when we play our local games, you know, even if it's a nothing game that we've gone for, I've seen guys just give it everything, because football is such an intense game, right? Even if you're playing a 5v5, there's nothing on the line. You've just gone there. You've literally paid yourself for the pitch, for the ball, for whatever, to have friends come together and play and give it everything, knowing that you're getting nothing out of it. I've seen players get injured because of that in a game that doesn't matter at all. So it comes as a bit of a surprise. And you're right that players whose job it is to do this for their team don't sometimes, I'm not saying they don't always do that, but sometimes don't give it 100%. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say from a coach's point of view and from a manager's point of view, you know whether they're giving it 100%. Because you can see people who are trying, and you've watched them. You see, I always got told, don't show the manager you don't show him that I don't want to play for you anymore. Just go out and train, because if you show him your displeasure, that was the word I was looking for, he's never going to play you anyway. So what's the point in you? Just get your head down, train hard, and then when you get your opportunity, try your best. And if they know, the supporters and the management know you're trying your best, but it just isn't happening for you, they can forgive all of the bad performances. It's just when you hear stories coming out of especially Manchester United where, from Ronaldo through to present day, there's been an awful lot of issues in the club, off the field, on the field. That needs to be all addressed, get it out the way, and hopefully, Manchester United might win the FA Cup this year, and then start again next year. Maybe get in the Champions League or in one of the European spots, and then because the Premier League, as much as people don't like Manchester United, they need Manchester United. They need Manchester United firing on all cylinders, because then the Premier League is going to be even better than it is now. We've got 3 and 4 player teams and 5 teams now. You've got Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Tottenham, Manchester United, throw Chelsea in that mix. So it's a really robust Premier League, and we need the likes of Manchester United to regroup. They're going to get that investment, of course, that they've had, and let's see where they are next year. And that's what I hope. And I hope he's still there, Ten Hag's still there.
Yeah, well, from the way the players played for him, the celebration when Amad Diallo's winner, of course, went it, and Old Trafford absolutely erupted. I think, he is going to be there for at least another season. I frankly thought Liverpool were going to, I use this word, it's not going to ring well with United fans. I thought Liverpool were going to smash Manchester United in the quarterfinal. I was very surprised that they didn't. And I have reason to think that. It's not, I just sit here thinking, Luke, for no reason. They played the Europa League match, Mark. They played against Slavia Praha. And there was a team, I was looking at the Liverpool team in that match, and I was like, wait, who is this guy? I don't know this guy. Does he play for Liverpool? And these guys, in the FA Cup as well, in the round of 16, the goal scorers, I didn't know who the goal scorers were for Liverpool. So Klopp, with those players, has been getting big results, which is why I thought Liverpool against Manchester United or Manchester United versus Liverpool would work in favor of Jurgen Klopp. Do you feel, and I want this from a Liverpool point of view, because I'm looking at United players and I'm pointing out great things that they did, things that they could have done better. You feel out of the players that played, maybe someone could have done better?
Well, when you get beat, everyone could have done better, couldn't they? You look at chances missed, you look at defensive errors, you look at goalkeeping errors, you analyse all of them things. And, if you look at the goals that Liverpool conceded, especially the last 2, they didn't have to concede them. A sloppy pass into midfield and then they break, and then Rashford scores, and then obviously Diallo in the last minute. They're the things that can be, stopped. But what I will say with all of that is both teams have played an awful lot of football. Both teams have had lots of injuries to deal with. This is why Liverpool's academy has come to the fore. But I'll tell you something now, Arpit. Out of the 4 of them players that have come in that you didn't know, maybe only one of them will figure next year. So they've had to put them in, and they've shown that they're adequate to do the job. But I'll guarantee you not one of them, or maybe one of them only, maybe Bradley, will be the one that will still be in the team or close to the team than the others. And that's just the way the Premier League is. As a manager, but if you become manager of Manchester United and you say, I'm going to put all the 17-year-olds in because I want youth to thrive, you will last 6 weeks, because you'll get beat, and then your job will be on the line. So when managers come into clubs, they have to go with the experience, because that's the experience are the ones that are going to get you. And if you can align that with a couple of little, the youngsters coming in, then that's okay. But, football is an unforgiving business, and especially in the Premier League. And, it's at all costs that they play an awful lot of games now. And I know they're fitter, and they have all of the scientific dietary needs and everything else. But if you're playing 2-3 games a week for 40 weeks of the year, then it's a tough ask. And the best ones, Arpit, are playing 52 weeks of the year, because they're going to the Euros, they're going to the World Cups, and it's a never-ending cycle for them. So it's Liverpool. I've brought them youngsters in, but as I say, next year, I'll be interested to see if 50% of them are in the team. I don't think they will be.
Okay. I'm going to just focus on the United sides of things, and you can bring it back to Liverpool anytime you want, because I want to talk about a couple of players. I want to talk about Menu, who you mentioned towards the end of the match, was absolutely spent, ran around so much. I again bring this point back to the fact that McTominay started in that two-man defensive midfield, which I don't think he covers as much. So he leaves his defensive partner a little more vulnerable than maybe other defensive midfielders. But Kobbie Mainoo, a lot of United fans obviously singing great praise of him. Deservedly, he did play a pretty decent game. You believe that he still needs to go a little further to be the finished product?
He needs to be taken out and given a bit of a break, because if
scared me for a minute, yeah.
When we look at we're talking about another team here, Manchester City, with Phil Foden. Guardiola said that he's been top class from 17 right the way through. I think he's 21, 22 now. He's only now getting his full role in the team after 5 years. He's put him in, he's taken him out. He's put him back in. That's what needs to happen with Mainoo. If you're looking at this kid as being the mainstay of Manchester United going forward, that's okay. But how old is he? 18, 19?
Yeah, but does Eric Ten Hag have the luxury that Pep had? Does he have that? You look at the options he had. Yeah.
No, he doesn't. But that's why he's in the team on that regular basis, and he's done great. But I just think for him, when I seen him, I think it was around the 83rd minute, and he was chasing one of the Liverpool, and he looked really, really spent. And if you put him in another game, and he's not getting his energies back, and he's not restocking, then and as I said before, these games come thick and fast, and some of these kids don't get the opportunity to recover right, and get what they need to get to then go on and become the player that they are. We see it with Barcelona. Pedri and Xavi now are injured. Come on, playing all the games, and then all of a sudden they get injured because this tiredness creeps in. And when you get tiredness creeping in, little niggles will then become big niggles, will become bigger injuries, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure Ten Hag knows this, and I'm sure he would love to be able to say to him, you sit out for maybe a couple of games, and then stick him back in and gradually build him into that. Then he will become the player that Manchester United want, and the player that he is, because I haven't seen an awful lot of him, but what I have seen of him, I mean, early on in that game yesterday, he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
So he's got the qualities, but don't let it be taken away from him through this endless, because it's not just, it's constant games, isn't it? It's just constant all at the time. And, and the Premier League itself is an unforeboding business, because it's tough, it's fast. It's, you see the tackles going in, and, if you're not prepared for that, and if you're just a little bit tired, or you're a little bit emotionally, mentally tired, then you could get a real big injury in that. And that's what we don't want. We want these players to gradually become what they should be.
Kobbie Mainoo there, of course, doing a pretty good job. Another young player, I mean, comparatively, I don't think he has as much competition in his position, is Alejandro Garnacho, because he seems to be now pretty much the first name, at least if you talk about the front six, one of the first names that goes in there. And yesterday, Mark, I was watching this guy. Sometimes I felt his decision-making could have been better, because I felt like he was always cutting back onto his left foot and trying to get a cross in. It didn't work for most of it, but he obviously had the crucial assist for the winner, the perfect assist for Amad Diallo. But apart from that, 120 minutes, I know he's young, but 120 minutes, that goal Amad Diallo scored. Amad Diallo came on as a substitute and did his bit running. Garnacho was the one who ran the whole pitch holding the ball and gave an assist to Amad. This guy, Garnacho, is literally now, I feel, the most important player in attack for Manchester United. And I didn't think this about a month ago.
Well, that's where Manchester United are. I mean, he was outstanding yesterday. His energy levels were off the scale, weren't they? As you say, 120 minutes, and he's still racing up and down. He scored the goal against Everton, the wonder goal, and he's also created goals for other people. But I think what he's got now, he's got the experience now. He might be young, but I think he's played a lot of games for Manchester United now, and he understands the rigors of it all. And what he does do now as well is he gets himself back into defensive positions when he loses it, and that was always the key for me with wingers like he is. They're all well and good going forward and trying to play the ball in and losing it, and then just easing the way back in. He gets right back in, and especially yesterday, Manchester United down the left-hand side needed solidity, didn't they? That's why they put Wan-Bissaka in, because they had Salah against them. So and it worked. It worked a treat for them. Even Wan-Bissaka, I thought, played really, really well. He was trying to get involved in the build-up and whatnot. But he's got that quality. He's got that pace to defend. And as I said to you during the game, there's more goals in this. Manchester United are going to score another goal, and obviously they did late on. But it was if you look and analyse it, Liverpool. If you look at the stats are very equal. Liverpool had more of the ball. I think 58% of the ball. But if you look at shots on goal, shots off goal, they were very, very similar. And there were an awful lot of shots, between both teams.
And which is why I feel, Mark, because you're talking about the fact that you thought United would go on and score. That second half, there were moments when, as a United fan, I was like, just keep the ball for like 30 seconds, because Liverpool were just controlling the ball. They weren't giving United the ball. There was this time when Harry Maguire tried like a complete crossfield, 40-meter ball, which just went out of play. And I was screaming and I was saying, just keep the ball. So it looked like Liverpool were in control during that second half, which is why I did not think that United would have those chances.
But this is Man United all along, isn't it? They start sometimes games like on a hot tin roof, and then they have spells in the game, especially the second half. It was turgid at times, wasn't it? They were giving the ball away, as you said, and you couldn't see them getting a way back in, and they got a scrappy goal because he had nearly 4 or 5 defenders around him, and he somehow turned and put it into the side of the net. So that
which is right foot. May I just add that?
Yes, and from a player who's had a lot of bad publicity. Again, not just for his footballing side, the other side don't matter, but from his footballing point of view, he's come with a huge reputation, a huge price tag, and he hasn't really cut the mustard. But when you score goals like that, and he's got something to prove as well now. Whether he's an 80 million pound player or not, he's got something to prove, and you can see that we're obviously going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Rashford, because he's got everything, and yet we don't see anything from him, do we? I mean, yesterday, apart from him scoring the third goal, he was poor, wasn't he? And I speak to people. Our friend Ashley Westwood thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread, but I don't see it, and obviously you as a supporter don't see it, and I don't think he's one of your favourite players.
No, I mean, yesterday I would agree as well. There were chances. I mean, the last kick, which could have been offside, so we don't know if had it gone in, how much it would have been reviewed. But I did feel like, and I've felt this for a lot of the season, and I don't think Marcus would disagree that he done more for many parts of the season. There are times when you've seen him not even run back. Times you've seen him just not be involved in the game as much as you would want. Times when he's missed chances that you thought 4 years ago Rashford could, score with his eyes closed and maybe 1 foot tied behind his back, just to joke about it. So yeah, I did feel in the match he scored that third goal, obviously, which set the roof on fire before the Arlos winner. But yeah, I do believe that he still can do more. There's much more. And at my own point, like obviously as a fan, I'm greedy. I want more from Marcus Rashford. But you said this as well. He's been through scores of managers at Manchester United, and he's still one of the first players on the team sheet.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, and it could be a bad thing. When these players, when we talked earlier on about players taking responsibility for their performances and whatnot, if Manchester United, no matter what year and what squad they had, they've had real quality players in that squad, haven't they? We've seen with Pogba, obviously Ronaldo, and all of these players. Something happens within that football club that the players either down tools because of whatever reason, I don't know. But they've had every major manager at Manchester United since Alex Ferguson, and when a player's been there right the way through them all, sometimes it's a good thing because they've all picked him and they all think he's a good player. But they're the players that are getting them the sack as well. So there's that balance between both. And when we've talked about Manchester United previously, we've always said about there's something not quite right within the changing room. There's a few players that can muddy the waters, you know. And as I've always been told, it only takes one rotten apple to spoil the barrel. And we've had loads of issues with Manchester United with that. Hopefully they can address all of that. And maybe Rashford, I've heard Rashford going to PSG. That might be a good thing for Manchester United. Get whatever 100 million for him and go out and buy, another player that's capable of doing what he's done over the years. And he scored a lot of goals last year for you. And obviously not as much this year, but it's just there's levels of he just the body language from him. It doesn't organ. It just looks as if he's disinterested. I don't think he isn't like that. I think he does try, but that body language gives off because as soon as he does something like that and he goes, I think you're on 350 grand a week. You should be racing back and running around and so. But having said all of that, he's a human being. He'll have issues off the field or whatever it is, and you've got to cut him that slack, but. Yeah, that's interesting with the likes of Rashford at Manchester United. It's a funny one. It'd be interesting if we could get.
It'll be interesting actually.
Van Gaal on and all the other managers on to see.
Well, we can dream right now. Yeah, we've just started obviously, so we don't really have a plan in terms of how on the mark with Arpit goes. It'll be great to have. People, it'll be great to have fan interaction as well. I've still not figured out a way to go about it, not figured out how to do live sessions and all that. But what you just said about Marcus Rashford to PSG, I'm sure there'll be a lot of fans who will have a very strong opinion whether it's yes, go, let him go, or no, keep him. So we could figure that out later as well. What else would I want to talk about? Just quickly, because there's this debate which is raised online about potential red cards in this match as well. I'll just offer my opinion and then you can let me know what you think about it, because McAllister was on an early yellow, and then there was this tackle which a lot of people thought he could have gotten a second yellow for. Bruno Fernandes obviously had a yellow card, and then he went in for a tackle that a lot of people said could have easily been a second yellow. Gomez on Van Bissaka flying in, a lot of people said could have been a red card as well. Now, I mean, back yesterday, maybe during the course of it, I would have felt differently. Now that I've had time to process it, I think it is a great thing that the referee kept 11 players on the pitch from both teams, because then the win that we are talking about is more so about what players did on the pitch or didn't do, rather than what if a player had been on the pitch. So I think I'm okay with the decisions that were made. What about you?
Yeah, I don't want to ever see anyone getting sent off, because it spoils the game. And the ironic thing about all of this is all of them tackles that you've said in the game that could have been given a second yellow or a red card. Diallo gets sent off for taking his shirt off. That's the irony of it all.
That's just.
I mean, that has to change. There's stuff like that in football. I'm not a great lover of change in terms of the rules and different things, but that is silly. The referee has to look at that and think, this is a young kid who's just took their team to the semi-final, and yet he sends him off. Where, as we said, the others could have easily got sent off for it. But,
it's interesting what you say, because I didn't even address the actual red card in this one. That second yellow, and we said it the moment the rule was changed, which was years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, this was driven by sponsorship, if I'm not mistaken, where the logic was that when a player scores a goal, that's the time that most eyeballs are on a player. And if at that moment he takes his jersey off, then, what are the sponsors really giving the money for? I can see that point of view. I can see it, because if I'm paying for something, I want, it's worth. But when you've scored a winner in extra time in that manner against one of your arch rivals for decades, I think there should be a clause that says the referee can think about it.
And also, I think with Diallo, because he's been out on loan, hasn't he? He's been to Sunderland, I think. He's taken his shirt off for Ten Hag and Man United to say, hang on, I am here. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So there's loads of subplots in this, but I don't want. I mean, we seen the Chelsea game when one of the players got sent off in that for Leicester, and it was it was an innocuous tackle, but he was last man, and it's the rule. I get it, but it changed the whole game, because that could have been a major upset as well, because Chelsea were 2-0 up, and then Leicester came back into it. So obviously, I say goals change games, but sendings off definitely change games as well. And because you guys, you pay to go in. You're paying a lot of money to go and see that game. The last thing you want is to see a game with 20 players on, or 21 players. You want to see the whole 22 for 90 minutes, giving it a good go at each other. And I was thinking, when you were talking about this, I was thinking the irony of it is a non-tackle. He's just took his shirt off and he gets the second yellow, and he gets sent off. So that's the craziness of it all. But as I say, it's hard for referees. Being a referee in the Premier League is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world, because it's so quick. Things happen so fast. Tackles that you don't think were anything turn out to be really bad tackles, and now they've got the VAR, and they've got obviously endless repeats. So
it's not easy. It's not easy being a referee, for sure, Mark, because a lot of times we forget that they have their own adrenaline running at a very high level because of all the running that they're doing. We look at players and we say, he was so into it. He ran the whole length of the pitch and he dived in. We don't think about referees and how much they move, oftentimes more than most players, because they have to be everywhere. But like I said, I was just glad, and I think you agree, that the match did with most players on the pitch. Amad Diallo, of course, getting sent off. I would like to believe that most people would not want that to happen for any player of their own team.
But I also want to say, we talk about the players and managers under the scrutiny. These referees are under such scrutiny from the first whistle right the way through. And we always say, the ones who do well are the ones that we don't know are on the pitch. But there's so many decisions that they have to make, and the one thing that came in was VAR to help them. And it hasn't helped them in certain circumstances. It's made their job 10 times harder. So it's let's ease off on the referees. But as I say, it's a tough job. And when I was a coach, I was vociferous against referees. I was up. That's our ball. And if me and you went for a tackle, and you knew that it went out of play off you, you'd go, ball ref.
I'd still ask for it.
And he's got to make that decision. So if he gives it to you, I'll be up in arms. Or if he gives it to me, you'll be up in arms. And he's getting. So it's a thankless job, but it's a job that I think they're doing okay with.
So just for safety, because I feel like there might be some internet issues, and I hope, because of the recordings that I have, that I can edit them. But just in case there are some issues, I apologize for it. We'll try to sort them out. I just want to talk about a couple of things from my side, Mark, and then you can come in with anything that you want to talk about. Klopp, after that match, he was interviewed by Andy Mitten as well, and Andy did a great interview. And Klopp, I thought, was pretty good in the way he responded. I'm not a big fan of managers and players having to talk to media after a loss like that, because I can't even imagine what they're going through. So I'm quite forgiving, even if they say something wrong. But apparently, in an interview with a Scandinavian television presenter, he got upset with the question that was asked, and he just walked off. I'm still not sure about the exact words he said. People are saying that he may have made a comment or something about the reporter. But what did you make of him just storming off based on whatever question was asked?
Well, you've got to realise it obviously wasn't a question that he thought was worthy of answering, and I think someone's alluded to it, that he said that your press wasn't
intensity.
The intensity wasn't there. This is a guy who's had to deal with a lot of injuries in terms of within his squad, and look around, and they played that many games, and his teams have. That's the one thing that no one's ever accused him of not having that intensity, and it just showed that the players were tired, and he didn't need to address that. I mean, as much as these journalists say these questions, they have a responsibility also, not to wind the guy. As you said, it's hard for managers to come in just being beaten and have all of them emotions in you, and then you get someone saying that your team aren't working for you, Mr. Klopp. What's the reason behind that? When he knows the total opposite is the case, and we've seen it with lots of managers, Alex Ferguson, and a lot of these big managers now, they manage the room, if you like. They'll only fend the questions that they want to fend, and the other ones they'll fend off. They'll say no, and he'll probably look back and think it was a little bit unprofessional by just walking off. But what does he do? If he answers the question and says to the journalist, "That's a stupid question," then he'll get criticised for that. So sometimes it's best not saying anything at all.
But again, I don't think you or me, both of us, would blame Klopp for being a little upset, because he's quite an emotional guy himself, and that match was super emotional. I just hope there was no context lost in translation because of the manner of the question. Maybe the question just came across as wrong as well, so we're not necessarily blaming the journalist here as well. Before I come on to the last point that I want to talk about, one, I just want to make sure our internet is working fine, so there's no confusion. So Mark, just tell me a line so that I know it's all clear.
Hi, Arpit. I'm really enjoying this show, mate. Looking forward to the next one.
Awesome. So there's one thing that I want to talk about, and I know it's the reference that a fan post that match, but before that match that we should address.
You went off there, Arpit. It was...
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Sorry, go on. Say again.
No worries. There is some trouble in terms of the internet or something. We'll figure that out. I was saying, what I'm going to talk about last, the one thing that the fan made a gesture about. So I will talk about that last. Is there anything that you want to talk about with reference to the match or the teams before we go to that?
I just think it was a spectacle, and I think all players, management, and should take a lot of credit for this, because this is what supporters want to go to see. They want to see goals. For me, as a coach and a defensive coach, I'm not ideal with all of these goals going in, because I'd rather see a 1-0 or a 2-1 where defending's being really, really good. But this was brilliant. It was brilliant for the FA Cup. It was brilliant for football. And long may that continue. We've seen 22 players going at it hammer and tongue, whether they were good or whether they were bad or whether they were indifferent. They were all going to win the game. And what a game it turned out to be. I'm not a great lover of extra time and whatnot, but this extra time has probably got to go down as one of the best extra times in the history of football, because, to see Liverpool dominate in that extra time, and then for Manchester United, for me to go to bed and wake up the next day and find out, if you'd have said that to me, I'd have said, no way, there's not a chance on earth that Manchester United have won that game. And then I see a 4-3, and then I'm on the internet looking at the goals and whatnot. That's what football's all about. This is why we go and watch it. This is why we love supporting it.
Yep, definitely. What a match. And I haven't seen so many tweets from the official FA Cup handle on my feed as much as I've seen over the past 10, 15 hours. So obviously, it's made an impact, that game. It's quite an advertisement of the sport and the tournament as well, which doesn't really need an advertisement. So the last bit that I'm going to address, and again, I just hope my internet holds up perfectly and yours does too, is there was a gesture made by a Manchester United fan, which has since been viewed by a lot of people. I didn't understand the gesture immediately. I didn't get the relevance of it, but you explained to me that it was with regards to the Hillsborough disaster. And we've spoken about this in the past. I'll let you take over with regards to what this specific fan did. How disgraceful is it?
Well, it was beyond disgraceful. It was distasteful, disgraceful, and it wasn't needed. You've won the game. Why rub people's noses in it? But what he referenced was a lot of people at Hillsborough died from suffocating into the barriers, and his gesture of this and this, there was no excuse for it. And I hope that they find who it is. they make him responsible for what he's done, whether it's ban him for life or whether him to get arrested by the police, whether it's he loses his job. He's got to have something. You cannot do that, because there's been lots of tragedies happen in football. I mean, we could say about Manchester United, the Munich disaster and
United
whatnot.
themselves,
Yeah, so it's a cheap shot. It's a horrible shot. It's a nasty shot.
It's a dirty shot.
And it needs, and it needs to be taken out. And he needs the full powers of whoever's going to find him, because obviously he's an internet sensation right now, but he'll soon be for the wrong reasons. Yeah, so they need to take him to task, do what they have to do. But that's especially after the game that we just had. That was enough. You don't need to poison it with such nonsense, such vile actions as that. And it was just awful. And as I say, I hope he gets what's coming to him soon enough.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, there was another fan, I think it was a Manchester City fan, I don't want to say that I'm sure about it, who made a sort of gesture which referenced the Munich air disaster as well. And they did go and prosecute him. I don't know exactly what they did, but they did get the Manchester police involved in this, and they did go about it. And we hope that this continues with this as well, because I support Manchester United. I was glad that they beat Liverpool, but I'm not going to bring a tragedy into this. I might still try to rub Liverpool fans the wrong way. You know, there was a video of a fan screaming at Salah saying, "Get out of the FA Cup." That's still, I think it's still wrong, but it's still not pushing boundaries of tragedy. You're still, just being a hardcore fan. So I might be okay with that. But yeah, when it comes to tragedy, we've all at some point experienced something, maybe not at that scale, and we don't want to be reminded of it. So, as a United fan, I would apologize as well, and hope that in future it's just banter that we have, and maybe a little bit here and there, but not any references to tragedy. Well, that's been us looking back at one of the most epic football matches that both of us have witnessed. Also one of our first shows, so we may have teething problems. Apologize for the teething problems and hope that we get better. Mark, anything that you want to say before we sign off?
No, do you know what? I've really enjoyed it. I think for me, this is what I've wanted to do. I know we're in broadcasting in terms of Sony, but this is on the fans level, and we can talk the way we want to talk and express what we want to express, and hopefully we do a lot more of these, and people will start following and seeing what we're trying to achieve here. But this has been absolutely brilliant. As I say, I'm not technical. You're the technical one, and you're the lazy one, and I'm the opposite.
I am. Yeah, I am. I think one of the reasons we get to talk so much about everything is because, we don't have broadcast stipulations in terms of, Sony themselves have so many tournaments and so many sports to cover. We've just sat here talking about one match, and obviously it's hard to do that when you have like 15 tournaments of one sport, when you have the Bundesliga to talk about, the Champions League to talk about, the FA Cup to talk about, and then look at other leagues that are very critical to football in Europe as well. So it's very hard to do this in broadcast on a channel because of everything that we have, which is why on the mark with Arpit, we can focus as much as we want, because we have the time that we dictate the time over here. No one's going to tell us that we need to move on to another sport or another topic. And which is why we, I guess, have this freedom to say what we want. We've still, I think, gotten through the show without using the F-bomb, Mark. So that's still pending.
The S-bomb.
has come. The S-bomb has come a couple of times. Yeah, the F-bomb has not come. So good. We've still sidestepped that mind. But yeah, that was us on the mark with Arpit talking about Manchester United versus Liverpool. And see you on our next episode. We're still not sure what we're going to talk about, but there's so much football happening that we will figure something out. Goodbye.